Greetings, Whifflers and Whiffle lovers. Welcome back to the HWBL Podcast in our new form here on Zoom. I would like to introduce our guest for this week's podcast, Mr. Grant Long. He's a mascot / player for the Hicks with Sticks, and he's a 2-year HWBL player. Grant, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to finally get my spot on here.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Has been 1 year.
We're going to start off with just doing a little recap of this past week. And Grant, you can recap your games, but I'll get into the other ones. So the first game of the day was an early bird game between Birds Aren't Real and Hillbilly Hitters. This was Birds Aren't Real's first win as a franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jake, you didn't see that game, did you?
I did not, no.
No. Now, let me tell you.
I was asleep.
Yeah, it's early. There's also a player on Birds Aren't Real that was asleep. One of their leaders, a big get, just in bed, taking a snooze. That would be Nick Newborn.
Yep. Very on brand for him.
That is on brand Nick Newborn. I thought he'd at least make the 10:45 game, but didn't make it for that either because I still think he was not awake by 10:45.
Yeah, I called him shortly after, and it sounded like he never really even intended to show. So
No.
It'll be an interesting season for Nick, I think.
Yeah, that's a grown man. Anyway, they got their first win. That was big. I don't think this is the typical girls team the league is used to seeing. They won 8-3. I will say Hillbilly Hitters played with 4, even with a 9-man roster. Can't get everybody there. And so they were taking an out for their last at bat, for their 5th at bat every single time. And that definitely hurt. But Birds Aren't Real won 8-3. Next game, they played the Fellowship of the Swing, which is the Lord of the Rings team. And just to talk about this team, Grant, did you see this team at all?
I played them, unfortunately.
Oh, you did at 1:15, didn't you? Yeah. So we'll talk about that game, but thematically, I mean, for me, they're the front runner right now for team theme.
Yeah, they really have to be.
I haven't seen anybody else with more commitment. You had one of the best Frodos I've seen. Blake with the Witch King outfit, all black, actually played in it for that first game.
Yeah.
Just amazing. And then, I mean, Casey in the Gandalf. Tucker, his outfit was fantastic. So one of the headlines I had from this past weekend was Fellowship of the Swing, underrated theme, overrated team. I don't think Fellowship of the Swing is that good.
Wow, that's a hot
Is
take.
their theme really underrated though?
Well,
I feel like
yeah, let me explain that. I mean, Blake last year, I think he got a lot of slack for being just not engaged.
I think that his engagement this year has actually backfired on him because people see what he could have been doing last year.
Oh, that's true.
I heard some comments from Chris Hinkley about, look at this guy. All we got was a Yoshi shirt last year.
It's true. Now he's wearing a full mask and a full cloak.
Yeah. Yeah, while playing.
Just shows he never cared about those Wiffle Bros at all.
No, apparently not.
But I'm saying they're an overrated team skill-wise because they played Birds Aren't Real, which maybe Birds Aren't Real is better than we thought. But they beat them 4-1. That's a close wiffle ball game. They barely scraped by Birds Aren't Real.
Yeah, to only score 4 runs is not good.
That's not a good sign. Yeah, the bats aren't going. But the next game, Hillbilly Hitters again with 4, played the Founders. The Founders, Jalen was supposed to be there. Thought that we only had 1 game, just completely missed the game. So that was a little bit of a loss. But the Founders ended up winning 12-2. Jake, do you have any thoughts on that game?
I mean, I'm not even sure how we really scored 12 runs. I feel like none of us hit well. Well, I shouldn't say none of us. Grant Farrington is a new player this year. Watch out. Potential Silver Slugger.
Yep.
I think he's the early favorite for Silver Slugger.
I agree. I was thinking about this. Grant would always joke about how he doesn't get balls like past the infield. And I think he had multiple shots in that first game that were past the infield. So he's like, he always talks about how the infield is his like home run fence. And he's hitting bombs this year then, So I'm excited for Grant. He's been in the lab. He's been putting in work. And then we move on to Hicks with Sticks versus the Fellowship of the Swing. So this was the second game for the Fellowship, and this was the opener for Hicks with Sticks. So what happened here, Grant?
Well, I would like to chalk this one up to it being a debut, but I don't really think I can because I think that if we played them mid-season, it would have probably gone the same way. I mean, we had Jacob Martin pitching, and he's one of the best pitchers in the league, and they were just hitting balls off of him. Like there's nothing we could do about it. It was kind of close for a little bit. I mean, they only had 3 runs for a couple innings, and I was kind of optimistic about that. And then they just lit us up, and we weren't hitting anything. Like I think we had like 3 hits as a team, so we really just fell apart offensively. And
who pitched for Fellowship that game?
Jesse Nochi did actually.
Okay.
Yeah, which Jesse actually kind of carried them this game. He pitched a great game, and he hit a home run that like blew it open, if I recall. And I forgot to say, Hudson pitched against Birds Aren't Real. So like Birds Aren't Real faced a good pitcher for Fellowship of the Swing. Jesse was throwing really well too. And Blake really did not pitch for Fellowship of the Swing hardly at all this weekend, which I think he only pitched 1 inning.
Interesting.
I know.
That's an interesting development.
I know.
He's often been one to clamor for innings.
Yeah, he likes to pipe up for those innings. So then the Founders got their game 2 against Woodstock Whifflers. And Jalen was able to make it back for this game, and he definitely made the most of his time. He was balling out. I don't have the stats up in front of me. I don't know if you do stats, man, but he had quite a few Ks that game and hit the ball well. And the Founders, we ended up winning 10-1. So I know we all felt pretty like dissatisfied after the weekend, but we were getting dubs.
Yeah, I think it shows the depth of our team that maybe some of our better players struggled, and yet we were able to pull out some decisive victories.
Yeah, it's good. Future looks bright for the Founders. I would like to highlight one thing. Not the thematic experience that we're used to from this franchise.
Yeah.
I mean,
one person in particular, I would say.
Yeah. Another Grant that we know of. Grant Farrington has won the Entertainer like every year, I believe. And I don't know, with the way things are going right now, there could be a new person who gets their name on that trophy this year.
Yeah, and he had mentioned he maybe wanted to back off the entertainment. I mean, that is a tough axe to carry, but he still was wearing pants. He didn't just quit entirely. He still had some showman in him.
That's true.
He can't stay away.
The Rex Kwando, full sweatpants going. That was all good. All right, and then the Hicks with Sticks got their second game, and this one went a little bit better. They played Pistol Whiff. So, Grant, you want to give us the recap?
Yeah, this was a lot better for us. We were starting to make some contact. I think we had 2 bombs that game, Payne Smith and Jacob Morton.
Oh, yeah. Pete Smitty was hitting the ball.
He hit surprisingly well. And I don't know, I think
surprisingly.
we had better pitching rotation. I mean, we pitched Kobe, Caden, and Jacob each, and they all cleaned up pretty well. couple errors on the infield, but I mean, it was a lot better. I will say, I thought we were going to walk out with that one, honestly. But I mean, it was 6-5 going into the last inning. Michael Bresnik gave us a game on the mound,
Yeah,
and then
he's their
he was
ringer.
pretty. But I mean, five runs in the last inning, kind of blew it open and closed out strong.
Yeah, that's good. So where was Kobe in your first game?
I have no clue, honestly. He wasn't there. We were just missing people all day.
Yeah, Elliot.
But Elliot is a complete wild card.
That sounds about right.
Kind of unreliable.
Yeah. Then, so after this game, we got into just some unfortunate things happen after this. PBA, who is mostly made up of Blissfield players, although they do have 4 players that are not on that Blissfield team, so they could have played with 4. They took a forfeit to Woodstock Whifflers. The Blissfield guys were in their district tournament. So that was the game that everyone was dying to see, Woodstock versus PBA. A lot of smack talk between those 2 teams, and didn't even happen. Woodstock gets the win. And then PBA is hustling to try to make it back to the game after their championship that, like, they scored over 30 runs total in the game. Like, both teams were just putting up crazy runs. So their game was just super long. It said like everybody pitched. And so they're trying to make it back by 6:15. And per league rules, you get a 10-minute grace period in order to start the game. They had Brayman and they had Kenny there waiting. And so they're trying to get it back. The whole time Pistol Whiff is like watching the clock, checking the clock to see if they're going to make it. 6:25 hits, and Pistol Whiff is content with the forfeit. And then they roll in around 6:35, and they want to play the game. And they have everyone there, except for Tanner. But they have everybody there, ready to play, and they want to play for real. And Pistol Whiff says, "Listen, we can play for real, but we get the win no matter what. Like, we're not going to chalk it up to how this game goes." So PBA was a little disappointed in that and didn't like that from Pistol Whiff. But they ended up playing the game still. And we recorded stats, but we didn't give the pitchers wins or losses. And PBA just absolutely dominated. They looked insanely good. So PBA is 0-2 now, but looking very hot.
So who was their first forfeit against?
Their first forfeit was against Woodstock Whifflers.
Okay.
And the second forfeit was against Pistol Whiff. So they both picked up wins this past weekend, where those would have been hard wins to get had they played PBA.
Yeah. I ran into Jeff Jamison after the game, and he was pretty pleased with his managerial play there. I think picking up that W.
Yeah, I mean,
he was not shy about it, and I think that it was pretty ballsy of Pistol Whiffs to just hang out after the game and not just roll out of there as soon as they get the forfeit win.
Yeah, they lingered. They wanted them to know.
Yeah, they lingered.
Yeah, people can have their opinion on whether they should have just played the game outright, because I mean there wasn't a game after. They could have played it, and if they should have just taken the forfeit, but they had every right to take the forfeit win, so they exercised that right, and they got that dub. So that'll help them come seeding time for playoffs, I'm sure. Which is good for them. And the one thing I do feel bad about is Woodstock, I think, may have saved some pitchers for PBA in our game. I know they pulled Brendan kind of early. So that kind of stinks if they were like, we're going to pull him and save him, and then they don't even use him. But anyway, moving on. That was the weekend recap. I also just want to do a quick rule discussion before we get into our Grant Long segment. And just kind of like get a feel from both of you guys how you thought some of these new rules went. So we did 5 in the field. What did we think about that?
I have not met a person that likes 5 in the field yet, other than maybe the couple that voted on it. But I don't know. It doesn't ruin the game, but it could.
Grant, what do you think?
I mean, it feels pretty cramped, honestly. I feel like it's really hard to get good base hits. And my team also didn't benefit from it because we don't have 4 good fielders. So, I mean,
So putting an
Yeah,
extra
I-
guy out there.
yeah, it was just an extra body to make space. And as a batter, it's a little intimidating. I mean, it's not really a gap shot. It's you either go yard or you get an error. So I think 4 was better.
I agree.
I also did not realize that you needed 5 this year. It's a forfeit.
No, you can play with 4.
Or you take the out. I mean,
Oh yeah. That's true.
because I feel like the out in the past was more because we were using ghosties and stuff rather than
Yeah, it's a sign of it's a punishment.
you're already at a fielding disadvantage. But
Right. It's a
I
punishment.
get it. I like having full teams there, so I'm not fully against that. But
Yeah. I do think we could see more bunting with 5 in the field. I know that I hit some balls that I thought were hit hard, but they just go right to people and they get out. So it's like, I don't know. What's the point if I'm just gonna get out every time? Like I might as well just put a bunt down.
yeah,
Because I either
I
have to
agree.
hit a home run or hit it on the ground. And sometimes I can't control if I hit it on the ground, but I can control it if I hit a bunt.
right.
So we could see more bunting, I think. Which I know excites you.
I would concur.
Yeah.
I think that's what the commissioners have wanted though for a while. So everyone wants to see a good bunt.
Oh yeah. I know I do.
Fans love it.
Stop being a hater. Okay, we also kept with the no infield fly rule, and guess what? We didn't see anybody exercise that once all day, per usual. But I did see dropped pop-ups. Okay, anyway. 6-inning pitching cap still. The re-entry rule, I do want to clarify some things here. So only the starter can re-enter the game.
Okay.
And
That is different than I realized.
yep. And you can't leave an inning until you record an out.
Really.
And then the starter, so the starter is the one that you're doing this calculus of, okay, do we have him play the field or not? You have to keep him out of the field in order for him to re-enter. So if you pull him and you play him at third, then he can't re-enter. But just to clarify that, and I don't think we saw anybody re-enter all Saturday, so didn't get used. We introduced the out of play rule for Nick. I don't remember.
I still would like to say that I hate the re-entry rule before we move on.
Okay.
I think you should be rewarded for knocking like a good pitcher out of the game and them not being able to return, but that's all I'll say.
I agree. Grant, do you have any opinions on the re-entry rule?
I mean, it'll probably benefit my team at some point.
Yeah,
Because
I think it's good for your team.
it probably is good for our team, so I'm not gonna knock it. But I mean, from an objective standpoint, I agree with Jacob. Like, if you take out a good pitcher, you should be rewarded for that. You shouldn't come back and get you later. But also, on teams that aren't absolutely stacked, normally your pitcher is going to, want to play the field. So there's a lot to go. So
It's true. We introduced an out of play rule this year because we had a disgruntled Nick Mewborn, and I think he had a point from last year. I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago that Nick. Oh, it had to be 2 years ago because I think it was against us, and he was on our team last year. He had a play at home plate and chucked one like really hard that went to the driveway. That he just walked after the ball, then like all the bases cleared, and he was very upset. Then he gave up the rest of the game. So now if you throw a ball that goes past the backstop, the umpire will just call out of play and the runners will advance. We still have the tag rule. I heard some people thinking that you have to yell tag rule, or you have to yell tag no matter what base you're on, or like that's not true? Just want to clear that up.
Doesn't hurt. But
I guess it doesn't. I guess it doesn't hurt, but you don't have to. It's really just for making a play at home. So if you're on third base, you yell tag. We did have kind of like an interesting situation where I don't think Grant Farrington did not yell tag and was on third base, but they caught it and threw it to second, and then he left. And we said that was fine because they had already made a decision on what they're going to do with the ball. So the fielder can throw it to home. You can hit the strike zone, get them out. You can hit the backstop or freeze them. That's really all yelling tag does, is let the fielder know, like, hey, you have a play at home. So that's all that is. Get out of the way rule. This was enforced more strictly. I did see somebody get struck out on this. You have to get out of the way of the pitch. If it's curving in, whatever, you have to make an effort to either hit the ball or get out of the way. So I do think that's good. Pitchers kind of get screwed sometimes when guys just stand in there and take their breaking balls. You can't leave. Grant, are you one of those batters?
I got a strike called on me for it. I had a double. It was okay. But I think that happened like 20 times to my team. Kobe kept on taking them. I don't think he gets that rule yet, but it was okay. I guess. I get the rule. I didn't know it was a rule, so I just stood there and took it.
Yeah. Well, this is good. This is why we're talking about it. Leave on contact rule. I still see people jumping off the bag when the batter swings at the ball and misses. They're jumping off the bag. There was obviously no contact. I think I got Jesse Nochi on this this past week. You're obviously not leaving on contact if the ball wasn't made contact with. So stay on the bag until there's contact, no cheating. And then the gray zone, it actually came into play way more than I thought it would this past weekend. Jake, what did you think about the gray zone for the speed cap?
I still would prefer no gray zone, but I definitely prefer the gray zone and 58 over the speed cap just being 60.
Yeah. Did you guys notice a difference of 58? Do you think it made a difference?
No. To me, no.
Yeah, I don't know if it made a huge difference, but we saw less like 65s on the gun, I would say.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I felt like the pitch. Yeah. I felt like the pitches still looked like the same speed to me as a batter, but I don't know. Yeah, and then there's this debate with the gray zone of foul tips and if they should count as a no pitch or a ball. But we won't get into that. Maybe if we have Sean Bertless-Krebs on the podcast, he can get into it because I know that he created a whole sheet, pros and cons for his argument. So that is one though that I don't know if I like how the rule is right now, and I'm still thinking about it. Okay, last thing I want to talk about for rules is playoff pitching. This has not been decided yet, and I'm curious to get both of your opinions. In the past, we've set an inning cap for pitchers for playoffs. So this year, the most games you could play is 3 for every team because there's 8 teams. And the debate right now is do an inning cap and decide what the inning cap would be for the playoffs. So you have to choose when to use your pitcher, if you want to save him or if you want to use him, or have no inning cap basically for the championship and just for the first 2 games. So you have like still the 6 inning rule for the championship, but basically you can use your ace for the championship if you want to, no matter what. So Grant, what do you think about that?
That's a tough one because I want to say like you do an inning cap for the whole thing because the championship team should be able to have some depth, but also, I don't know. It's hard to say because obviously a team like mine, like we wouldn't make it to the championship on like 3 different guys. Like but some teams like the Founders like should be able to make it that far. So I feel like for the elite teams, like they should have to prove like they have that pitching depth. So I kind of feel like you keep an inning cap for the championship because otherwise, I mean, you could just have one guy just roll through the championship and earlier rounds, and it's less exciting that way.
So we would still have like the 6 inning cap for the championship, but the question then is, yeah, do you have like you get 9 innings for the tournament or something like that?
I kind of still like that though, because I mean, like I said, like it makes it more exciting. You get to see other pitchers show out, bring
Yeah.
something new into the play.
Yeah, and you have to strategize. I also think it makes the regular season more important because then it matters what seed you have a lot more. Like if you can roll through an easy team first and not use your ace, then that's like a reward for doing well in the regular season. But Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. I think that the play-in games, you should be able to throw. That's like a separate game, correct?
Correct, but we don't have any this year because there's only
Okay.
8 teams.
Okay. Yeah, then I would say you just get a certain amount of innings for the playoffs.
And what would you
I don't
like?
know what that number. I don't know what that number should be, but I would say 9 would be the maximum because you're playing 3 games.
Yeah, 3 games, so 7 inning games. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say 9. You should have to throw at least 3 people over an entire playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. There are teams that definitely don't have 3 good pitchers, but I mean,
you need someone to throw like 3 innings then.
Right. We also have 9-man rosters, so it's like you can find somebody.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think there's a differing philosophy of like, should you be rewarded for having pitching depth versus should you be rewarded for having one like really, really good pitcher? And
yeah,
that's kind of
especially with 5 in the field and the dead ball era, I don't want just a team winning because one pitcher gets hot.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to our Grant Long segment. I got a list of questions. Some people submitted questions on Instagram. Other questions I came up with. So just the first question right out of the gate. Grant, are you taken for granted by your team?
I don't think I'm taken for granted. No, sometimes it feels like, but I think they appreciate me more than they may realize even because, that was my pitch to Jacob Moore and coming into the season. I was like, Jacob, I'm not going to be your best player, but I'm going to be the heart and soul of your team. And so I think, I've embraced that role and they've kind of accepted that's the role I've stepped into. So I think they appreciate that.
Yeah, I think you do that role really well.
I agree.
You need a heart guy, really.
You have to.
You're not going to get anywhere in the playoffs without a guy with a whole lot of heart, legging out a single when you need it.
Yeah.
I think some teams really do that.
Man, I can't remember all the attributes of a good wiffle ball player. I think it is hitting, fielding, pitching, creativity or entertainment. What was the other one? Speed or base running, and then heart. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, you don't have a full team if you don't have heart. So that's
right.
That's essential. That's essential to the Hicks with sticks. So next question for you. This is a question about last year. You were on Whifflers in training last year.
I was.
And there was a game against the Super Wiffle Bros that got a little hot. And
it did.
I just want to hear your perspective on what happened in that game and why it escalated.
I think that our team was like losing. I don't know by how much. It wasn't like a great margin. Like we did not feel we were going to win it. We didn't feel we were going to win it going in. And I think that, our mentality was, well, we might as well get in their heads because physically we are losing by a lot right now. So it was mostly me and Clay Ayers and Elliot Edelman. And we just started just dogging the other team, like just everybody. And it was kind of reciprocated. I would say it was definitely we were doing more antagonizing. And I do think we did get under their skin. So we achieved that goal. But yeah, it got a little heated. And personally, it's my fondest memory from the year
Yeah.
because I think I mean before that, like we were kind of a no-name team, and I feel like we kind of got our media moment then. So I regret nothing. But
That's
yeah,
exactly what I wanted to hear. And I think you have the right perspective. That's it put you guys on the map for sure. And you
I think
were
I don't think I would be here without that game. I think that game really showed the league what I was made of, and I think that's why Jacob Morton brought me back.
I think you're right. That's very true. And you guys were surprisingly successful at really, really irritating them, despite being down by many runs.
Yeah,
And they were definitely upset. I wanted to say one of my headlines going into this was the league has gotten soft. Before, this is why I loved that game last year. Before, when the league was a little bit smaller and, just grassroots, we were very vocal that trash talk was encouraged. And it was just a staple of the league. Like, you talk trash to their team and you try to make them upset and get in their head. And I mean, Twitter was just a dogfight before every game.
Yeah, I think that's really where it's turned, is that Instagram, how do you trash talk on Instagram, really? It's ruined the game, the trash talking game.
Well, I mean, you can still trash talk on Instagram, and you could still trash talk on Twitter if you wanted to. I know PBA is very active on Twitter. Jake used to rule Twitter. He no longer does. And he does not.
Why do you say that?
And he does not know how to operate Instagram. So that is where he gets into.
I don't know. I had some good instas last year, I feel like.
Yeah, you did have some good instas. But I just don't see you tweeting anymore. I mean, I think you ditched your Twitter handle, which was just a sign of extreme.
I have not, no.
You did not ditch Puppet Master JB?
I do not think that I did. I changed my Insta name from Puppet Master JB, but I believe on Twitter. Follow me.
The Twitter handle may be the same, but the man behind the curtain has changed. There's no longer that fire. I don't see the bite. It's just not there. So I don't know. But I like that trash talk from last year's Whittlers and training game. That was awesome. And, I hope that we keep that going. And this kind of brings me to my second question. Where is Clay Ayers? I mean, he was a big part of that. And I was looking forward to him being in the league again, and no show.
Clay is flaky. End of the day, like he told Jacob he would play. I mean, he was in the group chat and everything, and then he just told us, "I'm not playing, boys." And I mean, it broke my heart. But some people are cut out for the league and some aren't. And Clay Ayers is just not cut out for the league. He said he was busy and $45 was too much. And I just think that he couldn't keep up. I don't think he didn't think he could keep up with last year. And so, it's sad to see him go, but it revealed his true heart for the game. So I'm happy we got him out of the way now because.
Yeah. Is he TikToking? Is that what he's doing? He's too busy TikToking?
I think he is TikToking, and I think that with football isn't a big on TikTok, so it just kind of got in the way of what's really important.
Wow, that's really sad. That's really sad to hear. What about who else was on Whittlers on training that didn't make the cut? I think Craig Cole. I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody else.
He was never going to be invited back on our team. We told him mid-season to get off of our team. He just kept showing up.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. He was entertaining, though. More you guys interacting with him.
Yeah.
But that was probably a good move for the franchise.
Yeah, he was. He was tagged by our franchise, but tagged as "do not resign"
Right.
under any.
My next question, you're a little bit younger. How do we reach this new generation of Whifflers, this younger generation?
I mean, it's hard, you know. I feel like a lot of people don't know about it, so I feel like social media helps a lot, but word of mouth is the best way.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to reach kids, especially because they aren't that interested in it. Like with football at the surface is not that appealing to a lot of kids. And I think that really
Wow.
there are there are people like very young in the league, like Andy Jameson, Zion Bresnick, like they're both pretty young. And I think that having a couple young guys now who can like get their friends involved later on it'll definitely help, you know. You just gotta plant the seed early. But
Yeah,
it's hard.
I think you're right. Do you envision, so you guys have, your team, Jacob Morton and all of them, have always been younger than the rest of the league. You think there's a time where it's like, okay, we're reaching our prime, 2021, this is going to be the year we finally get a ring?
I mean, I'm in the league till I get a ring. I don't care what that takes. I won't team hop. I won't do that. I have seen some people ring chase and I won't call them out except for Michael Bremen. I will call him out. And I think that's dishonorable. So I will be with Jacob Morton and Jacobus Kegaris until we win a ring.
That
And
is
I don't think that I will never be too old for it.
that is very honorable. And I do think Michael Bremen is probably the worst display of ring chasing that we've ever had in the league.
He's the Kevin Durant of football.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. Okay, next question. This comes from Brad Hara on Instagram, and it is something I was wondering as well. What's the deal with the two Hick themed teams? Seems like the brand is quite diluted.
I'm actually very happy this got brought up because I have had a serious beef with the Hillbilly Hitters. They don't know it yet, but they do now.
Yeah.
I think that is totally Bush League because we created our team first. And I think that we have done it better as well. I mean, I show up, they're wearing athletic shorts and we're wearing jorts
Yeah.
and we're wearing flannel.
Yeah.
Jacob Morin is wearing overalls and there are cowboy boots out there.
Yes.
And I think that you're going to challenge us in our theme and copy it. I mean, it feels like it's a total blow to our whole identity because they aren't even trying to top us. And I feel totally disrespected.
Yeah. Like if you're going to challenge us in this theme, at least do it well. And
Yeah, because I don't think that it's like it does look like it's a simple theme because two teams came up with it, but it's not. It's pure coincidence. And I feel like people shouldn't even compare us as teams because we're so different in our effort level. And I don't think a Hick is a hillbilly. I talked to this about with Casey Nochi,
yeah.
and he has this whole ramble about how a Hick and a hillbilly aren't the same thing. So I feel like people shouldn't be so quick to draw the connections.
So what is the
We aren't.
difference? What's the difference between a Hick and a hillbilly?
A hick is like, you know, southern kind of like when you think of like a redneck, it's a hick, you know. Like I think we really display what a hick is well, like the cutoffs. I had a drum hat, the boots, the jorts. Like we really play it up, even with our walk up songs. Whereas a hillbilly is kind of like a Smoky Mountain kind of guy, you know, like blue
Yeah.
overalls, John Deere. Like I think there's a difference, and Hillbilly Hitters didn't even try to capitalize on that difference. Like they didn't acknowledge it at all. They just put everything Western and country and Southern into one big pot and said it's all the same.
Yeah.
I think if you're gonna
I
kind of study the
agree.
nuance.
You gotta you need to highlight now the distinctions so that you can like separate each other from each other. And I think hillbilly, I think of the banjo, I think of Mountain Dew, like, you know, so I mean maybe they can do something with that. I think more of like bluegrass music than country music, where Hick is more country music. And I don't know, Jake, do you recognize any distinction? As I mean, you're kind of our token Hick here.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely use those words synonymously.
You would say a hillbilly is the same as a Hick?
I would, yeah. I think that at the minimum, there's a lot of overlap. But I will agree that I think that you have done your theme much better than the Hillbillies have thus far. And Hicks with Sticks is a much better name.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I do have a hard time distinguishing them. Like, I need to always check my notes of, did Hillbilly Hitters play that game or did Hicks with Sticks? Because it's hard to keep track of. But next week, or the next time we have wiffle ball, Hicks with Sticks versus Hillbilly Hitters. So that's a primetime game. That'll be great.
It is a prime. We'll win in all facets of the game, theme and score-wise.
That's great.
I can.
Do you have anything else you want to say about this?
No, I think, I've said what I've needed to say. We're better. End of the day.
Absolutely. Tyler Reed asks, how cool is Coach Reed?
I mean, that's a tough question because he's still coaching me currently. So, I mean,
answer wisely.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, he's still going, so that's a tough one to answer. I'll say he's one of my favorite top 4 baseball coach right now.
Wow.
I'll put Michael for sure.
That was like the easiest way to say he is not cool at all without saying he is not cool.
He's my coach, but he's also competition in the league, and this is wiffle ball, baseball hours. So
yeah,
from that perspective, I can't compliment my opponent, but he's also my coach. Pick a middle ground.
I respect that. Blake Holbein asks, will Trump make America great again?
I mean, he already did, and then now we're back to ground zero. I mean,
so
all
right. So we were great, then we were not great, and then Trump came, and then we became great again, and now after him, no longer great. So
I feel
if he comes back,
MAGA, make America great again for the third time.
I mean, as a Hick with a stick, I'm practically legally obligated to say, yeah, he's gonna do it. He's also like 70 something, but he's got it. I wholeheartedly trust him.
So Trump 2024.
Yep, Trump DeSantis 2024.
Nice. Grant Farrington asks, well, actually, I'll go to Jesse's question because this kind of pairs up nicely. He wrote, in game 3 against the Fellowship, Jesse Nochi said, this is for January 6th, and then K'd you. Thoughts?
I mean, he did K me like 5 times that game. I don't even know what happened.
I did witness him say this is for January 6th because I was umping that game. It was pretty funny. Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I don't even know how I respond to that. That moment over, I'll give it to him. I mean, he did K me, and I would say the Hicks did take a heavy loss on January 6th.
Justice was served.
Justice was served by Jesse Nochi on the mound at the wiffle ball game for January 6th. Next question. Grant Farrington asks you to do a Mount Rushmore of grants in the HWBL.
No. I would put all 4 grants up there.
You think so?
I would say I go first though.
Yeah. So, I mean, to make this actually interesting, who would your George Washington grant be?
George Washington grant. I got to think of who's, I mean, I don't know, because George Washington is like I want to say Grant Farrington.
Uh,
Because he's on the founders, and George Washington wasn't one of the founders. And also, I don't know. I feel like he's kind of a league OG, and George Washington is like an American OG.
yeah,
So, to give to somebody else.
yeah. And then, so as a reminder, the other grants. So all four grants of Grant Gang: Grant Holbein, Grant Long, Grant Yoder, and Grant Farrington. So then who would be your Thomas Jefferson?
Thomas Jefferson. I mean, it's got to be Grant Holbein again on the founders. So
Yep.
easy answer. Big part of starting America, starting the Wiffle League. I feel like there's a lot of comparisons. I mean, Grant Holbein and Grant Farrington are almost interchangeable with Jefferson and Washington. I'm
Yeah, like
hard to.
the declaration of the league. Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, you were really helped put it in motion. So I'd say you're Jefferson.
Yeah, and then George Washington, Grant Farrington fought for it.
Yeah,
kept it alive, put his blood, sweat, and tears into it. Then, so who is Abraham Lincoln?
Abraham Lincoln. I mean, I don't know Grant Yoder that well, so I'm just gonna throw myself in this spot. And I would also say that because Abraham Lincoln was kind of controversial. I feel that I can be kind of controversial. I mean, Emancipation Proclamation was kind of a big deal, and not everybody agreed with it. Ended up leading to like the Civil War. So I feel like I'm controversial, and I'm kind of challenging some of the higher forces in the league. So I feel like I may be Abraham Lincoln out of all the grants.
Wow, I like that. And you kind of had your Civil War against the Wiffle Bros last year.
Yeah, except well, we won and we lost. It's complicated.
And then that makes Grant Yoder Teddy Roosevelt, which works out well because Teddy Roosevelt loved the outdoors, would just be gone out, and Grant Yoder just doesn't come to games because he's out on his boat on the lake. So, I think that's a pretty good comparison. It's pretty good. So just the last part of our segment with you, Grant, is there anyone from your league, from your team that you would like to put up for the league, for any awards that you think maybe they're flying under the radar, people don't hear their name enough, you want to get their name out there?
I mean, I think our whole team is pretty underrated. I feel like
All
it's easy to
star
overlook.
too.
I think it's easy to overlook us when you got teams like the Founders, PBA, Flush for the Swing, some of like the heavy hitter names. But I mean, we got Jacob Morton, who's one of the league's elite players, and I would say he's like already up there for awards like MVP and best pitcher in the league because he completely carries our bullpen and our hitting. He's pretty much our Otani, and I think it's hard to not throw his names in some of those awards. And I would say I would nominate myself for entertainer early. And I mean, I feel like I'm not left to show. Like I feel like there's a lot of directions I could go with Hicks with sticks. I think I can really up. So there's more to come in the future. But I would say, knowing myself, I wouldn't count me out for entertainer.
Oh, I'm excited. This moves us. Thank you, Grant, for partaking in this segment and joining us. This moves us into our next segment of the show, Stat of the Day with Statman Jacob Baker.
That is correct. And the subject of Stat of the Day has somewhat been a collaborative effort on you and my parts. I didn't say that right, but we'll continue. So we talked about a potential dead ball era with 5 in the field, and we wanted to look at batting average over the past few years to kind of determine how the league has gone. So I went back and looked at the median batting averages because I feel like that's a little better stat because the mean is somewhat skewed, I feel like, because the good players on the good teams tend to get more at bats. So I looked at the median for the past few years. In 2018, it was 364. 2019, it was 400. 2020, it was 333, so down a little, which is kind of what we anticipated.
Yeah.
And thus far in 2021, it is 300. It's the lowest median batting average we've seen. I'd like to say small sample size, but it's a quarter of the season. So I do not expect that number to rise too much. I don't know what we ideally would like that number to be, but I thought it was interesting to look back. I know some rule changes have probably influenced those past numbers as well. Like speed, 2019 was the first speed gun year, right?
Yep. So 55 cap in 2019. 2018, no speed cap, just subjectively say, hey, you're throwing too hard. And that sounded like, what'd you say it was? It was
360. Yeah, 364. 2019, 400, which that was the 55 speed cap year. We upped it to 60, and it was 333 last year. So this year, we'll see what happens this year, but thus far, despite lowering the speed cap slightly, we've seen a bit of a decrease again in batting averages.
Yeah, which is the exact opposite of what we wanted, but makes sense given having 5 fielders. You would think that lowering the speed cap to 58, 2 miles per hour, you would see some type of change in the batting averages, an increase, but can't know now because we had an extra fielder. So it's kind of going to offset.
Yeah. We'll see how it moves as the season goes on, but I would say that typically week 1 is the biggest hitting week and the pitching gets better from there. So
yeah, that's true.
I'd expect it to go the opposite way, but we'll see.
So if you had to give a prediction, you would say this year will be the lowest year out of.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't look back to like 2015 pre-speed cap, but I'm guessing that 2021 will be the lowest, which makes sense. Adding an additional fielder.
It does, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
But that's reality. All right. Well, moving into questions for your questions. Grant, you are partaking in these questions.
I'm back.
He's back.
Big back.
Okay. First question for you both. If you had to build a wiffle ball franchise today, who would be your number 1 draft pick?
That's tough.
Jake, do you want to go first? Are you ready for this?
I'll go first. And I'm going to go for the longevity pick because I think that this player could be a centerpiece on my team for the next 15 years. And I think that they could already be like a usable bat in the lineup. And that's going to be Zion Bresnik.
That's interesting, actually. That's the longevity.
I feel like Zion's already at worst like a league average hitter. And who knows after playing for 10 years what he could do in this league.
Yeah, his ceiling is just so high.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Zion.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, that is. I mean, think about longevity, like talking 10, 15 years. Obviously, somebody in my age range would be a good pick. I mean, Jacob Morin, I got to shout him out again. I think he can give you, he's already a top in the league. And I think he can give you another 10 like amazing years. And he's a pretty loyal guy. Like he's gonna stick with you. So I think Jacob, I mean, out of the box pick would have been Zion. I think that Zion's like a great pick for that because super young, very underrated. Same as his dad. But it's tough. I mean, it's hard to think of people in the league who are young, but also like have any potential to be talented.
That's true.
A franchise player. That's a big name to give somebody.
Yeah, that's true. I like Jacob Morton as that pick.
I feel like that's where you were leading us with that question.
No, I think that is I would almost take Savvy actually.
Yeah.
That's a
I think he is one of the best players. I think he's like just coming into being like the best player in the league. Like he's going to be there maybe this year or next year. And
Yeah.
I think Horky too. I think both of them could be. But
I think the Savvy's very good. I want to see another year like of this hitting though. I trust that he's a really good pitcher. I want to see him hit it for another year.
Yeah, and he's good in the field too. But basically, I want to win championships now. If I'm taking a guy, I'm not waiting for maybe potential championships. I want championships now. I think Nolan would give me championships now, and I think he would be able to maintain that for quite a while.
So
we're on the way out. We're old.
Yeah, I agree. But if you're trying to win championships now, like if that's the only goal, is Savvy still the pick?
It's not the only goal. I mean, I'm also thinking about the franchise. Like, I think I'm going to get both of that. Like, I think he's just coming into.
I agree.
The upslope.
I think that's a good.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. One wiffle, one non-wiffle. Non-wiffle question. A philosophical question for you guys. Can you ever perform a truly selfless act? Jake?
I'm gonna lean towards no, because I feel like there's always, even if it's our subconscious, there's gonna be some sort of like, even if it is a truly selfless act, you're gonna hope someone hears about it and that you get gratification out of it.
Yeah, or even the gratification that you get is for
it's
for yourself.
True.
Like even if nobody hears about it, but that good feeling you get.
Yeah.
I'd agree wholeheartedly. I think no, you can't. I mean, no. The easiest way to answer it. I mean, yeah, even when you do something, it's for yourself. Like it's really hard to not make it about yourself. So I think it's not really truly selfless ever.
What if you gave your life for a despicable person?
For a despicable person?
That like people would not be happy that you gave your life for them. And it wouldn't feel good giving your life for them.
It's very like oddly specific.
Well,
I still don't know if that could be considered completely and like wholly selfless. I think that you can definitely do selfless things, but ultimately there's going to be some sort of self-serving motive or something behind it.
I agree.
Yeah. I think like sacrificing your life is the closest thing you could get, because it's not serving you in this, like afterwards, you don't get the benefits of that. Now, as a Christian, you may be like, there may be still, you might have a worldview where there are benefits to that still. So I don't know. It could still be a selfish.
You could still think about like,
Glory.
People will, I'll have glory after my death.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, this has been great. Thank you for joining on Zoom. Zoom just opens up a world of possibilities of guests we could have. Hopefully the audio quality is great. We'll see. I wanted to.
So you think we're Zoom exclusive now, huh?
I don't know. I'm gonna see how this goes. I'm gonna see how it sounds, how it looks. I mean, I like doing in person better, but it's just harder given schedules. But
yeah,
we'll see.
I agree.
I like that we're able to have Grant Long on the podcast. Like, we haven't had Grant Long on the podcast, and we can have other people. So I like that. I want to highlight for the games coming up, Founders versus Fellowship. Fellowship of the Swing. That is next wiffle ball weekend. That'll be a big game between the only two undefeated teams in the league right now. And then we have Hicks versus Hillbillies too, another big game. So excited for those. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Thank you, Chloe, for protecting our field. Chloe has gotten a little, I don't know, she's not protecting it.
Yeah, talking about getting soft.
Yeah,
Chloe's getting soft.
Everybody is getting older, including Chloe, and it's showing. But thank you again for joining us, Grant. Thanks, Jake. It's always a pleasure. We will see you all on the Field of Dreams.